going back to, it's not that I need the success and fame to validate what I'm doing, and it's not even really that those things will bring me lasting joy or happiness. An artist, though, wants to share what they're doing and wants to feel that they're communicating something, that what they're communicating is understood.
All right, cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, you know, it's interesting in speaking in terms of different seasons of your life and what you're occupied with for pleasure or for pay. I started very early on with creation of music all throughout high school. I would create original songs every night. And I had an older brother who was very much, and a mother who was very more creatively inclined, not a composer herself, but taught me the elemental score, music theory, and a brother who was interested in the visual arts, who believed in me and made me feel that what I was doing was not only valid, but new and...
Older, younger?
Older, 3 years older, yeah. So the influence of my older brother basically guided me and inspired me to push harder and deeper into the realms of creativity. And music was such a personal thing by that regard. It was so connected to the things that are the language of my soul and really like communication with God, and it formed a huge part of my life. So to separate that world or to take that world and to bring it into the public was something that was like the sacred versus profane question. And as I got older, knowing that what I was doing was very private and would really translate into money or worldly success without a change of perspective was a difficult, and it is a difficult thing to grapple with. Music just represented something that was untouchable, something that was intangible, something that could hopefully inspire others. The motivation is what is underneath everything. What are you motivated? What is the thing that helps you tell without words, or to express yourself in a way that, music is a powerful medium, and it's one of the most powerful art forms, I think, because of that. Yeah, as far as seasons of my life, I have had seasons where I've done music full time as my main job. That's only due to grants that I've received, help from some outside forces, not consistently. So I find myself doing all sorts of odd jobs. Studied sound design in school, so I've done some of that, mixing. More recently doing video and editing, and to me it's the same language though. Like when editing, even something I'm not even touching the piano, is a way to compose. It's a way to find rhythm, and there's a beat, there's a real like a rhythm to creativity that it can express itself in a lot of different ways. I have to create, I have to do something. And
what happens if you don't?
I just feel like I'm living a half-life.
Not yourself.
You're
just dead. Just part of it just decays.
And I feel a little bit self-absorbed when I go through those seasons, because I have to remind myself of life is amazing, and I have a wonderful wife and a family, and however, that nagging feeling will never subsides if I'm not working on something or expressing those intangible feelings of my soul. Yeah.
These forces come to life in you alone. You're in your room, you're 16, 15, 12, and you're doing something, whatever, you finally have some means of self-expression, and then you're asked, I guess, to translate them into market need.
Yeah.
And,
right.
in order to continue on. And so how do you wrestle with that, and is it possible to keep to balance those two things so that what you're making is both sacred and distributable?
Right. It's my brother and I have talked a lot about that, because we have the same sentiment when it comes to creativity and art, and what the purpose of what we're doing is, and motivation. It's also for my brother a continuing question of working at a very high level of art and having some success, having some art sold for large amounts, but then vast valleys in between, where you have to kind of like revisit. It feels so personal, and it feels like it's part of your identity, and to divorce yourself from that and now make a marketable, like you said, some sort of output that could both serve your financial needs and also maintain a level of artistic integrity. I mean, speaking of scores and film music, because it's primarily without lyrics, it's not like I'm being forced to revise an article I wrote and totally miss the topic or the main thesis of what I'm trying to say. Music is dictated with a lot of scenarios in film by a director and by producers that could squash your creativity, but people find creative ways around that. Now, in my experience, I've primarily worked with my brother, so I've had a lot of freedom, a lot of artistic freedom. Our films, while they haven't made a lot of money, have always made money, and we've never gone into debt. So that is a personal triumph, because you do put a lot into it. We've always found either producers or sources of income to finish films. They've all been distributed. They've all made some money. And we've been enabled to keep working. So that is a partial level of success. Now, does it pay the rent? No, not perpetually. I've had a few projects that have paid a few months' rent, but I find myself doing odd jobs, and I worked at the Criterion Collection as the film distributor for a long time, just doing technical operations. It wasn't even creative at all. But that knowledge did enable me to expand my knowledge of film, expand my knowledge of programs and how to accomplish things that, for my own creativity, that did help. So I see everything as working toward some sort of common goal.
Yeah. I feel the same. I mean, I feel like I don't like looking at a client management in general,
right.
But it's like you can't help but invoke creativity, and you get the feeling that more people who have an element of creativity should maybe put it towards some of the things where there is a complete dearth of it.
Yeah.
You know, what is the nature of achievement in that field?
My symphony, I tried to work at the highest artistic level as I could, and I worked with an orchestrator friend for another year just to make it the composition at a high artistic level, a very expressive, interesting symphony that had layers of. Now, it was my first, so I got good reviews. I got positive reviews. Probably the takeaway for me was it still needed to maybe go into more. I mean, this is more of a modern concept, but like more dissonant areas. It needed a little bit more darkness to resolve back into like the light, because it's a journey story. It's a very film music driven symphony. In a certain sense, I can't see past the project I'm doing. It is all encompassing. I worked for 8 months, which isn't even that long really in the grand scheme of things, but I worked 8 hours a day for 8 months on the symphony to get to the first draft, and then a full year refining it with an orchestrator I collaborated with. I had it recorded with the best people. Half of them are from the New York City Ballet Orchestra at the Lincoln Center. I mean, everything was there, I feel. I mean, again, I'm the artist, so I can't be completely, I can't really see my work, and I probably shouldn't see my work. I'm obviously tainted by, my own impressions of my work. But as far as everyone around me, the conductor, some members of the orchestra, the orchestrator, the producer, it was a great work of art, and should have been placed at least in I won't want to say commercial, but a film or TV or something.
So if somebody said to you as gauchely as possible, "Why are you famous?" you would say they're wrong.
I don't know. If famous is achieving everything, achieving your dream, and having your work celebrated, I like partial success. So the question of fame is interesting, because you make all of your income off this one thing that you do. Maybe that's success, not fame. Is it how many people know about you? The populace, that could be like a definition of fame. Do you have a cult following? Yes, we do. So in that sense, we're famous because we've done so many films now.
Let's grab onto that. That's where else can it go except to, would be that 299 million of us talks about 1 million of us,
Yeah.
right? Or even maybe less. 299,
Probably
500,000 talks about 500,000 of us.
Yeah.
Right. And now I think we're quickly getting to 290 million talking about 10 million of us.
Sure.
And so where can it be in 20, 30 years, except that it's, getting close to like 75, 25 or something.
Yeah, you're
like
right.
So how else can we define it? And that's the big joke of this whole thing that I'm saying is like, how else can we really define it except terms like cult following, terms like being able to support myself, terms like being able to wake up and do what I care about every day.
Yeah, yeah.
And not and being able to, like we said in the beginning, keep what's sacrosanct and balance that with some element of worldly capability.
Right. Well, in a sense, we didn't survive the internet age, even though we're not old. Our films were on actual videotape and actual video stores all around the country, and we had people sending us pictures of like displays that we saw displays.
What year?
The first feature was 2005. It was actually two things were distributed in 2005. Our first feature and a short film collection, and people would contact us. I had a friend who visited Vietnam and Cambodia, and our film was prominently displayed with Hollywood Films in the video store. Yeah. It had been translated into 4 languages. Bootleg. Yeah. It was a bootleg, but it was incredibly beautiful bootleg. It had a new cover, new DVD art. I know that tons of people saw it. The films have gotten so much press too. That's what really baffles me about why. I mean, we have a tiny cult following. I'm not saying we're exactly. There's just things that have happened that have kind of baffled us. There's some bad luck. Like our film Glitch in the Grid was featured for a month or two prominently when Apple Trailers was bigger, when everyone went there to see, had a banner, and our distributor didn't get the VOD streaming in time, so we lost most of our sales. We were on the front page of IMDb. This kind of stuff, I don't even know how that happened, because I was the main PR person, and I just doggedly emailed and sent hundreds and hundreds of screeners. Our film Imagination got reviewed by 60 critics. We had all this stuff that happened, and I was like, why? But why? Why? Not that it has to, not that it defines who we are, that I have to have some sort of self, I don't know, that people have to. It's not that
I get what you mean. I know what you mean.
It's not that,
but you could have been able to do it. You wanted to just be able to do it and not worry about it anymore.
Yeah,
let's just do it, and then I'll get the next one, and then I don't have to worry about hunting for it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we're in each project we're back to square one. Whereas we spent a year and a half pitching a TV show to Cartoon Network. It was called Twilight Park. We did 8 or 10 episodes. And I actually wrote a whole feature screenplay of it later on, just in case it could be funded that way. My brother's actually starting to work on it again. But 2 people we knew got huge shows funded, or pitched and funded and aired on network, and we didn't.
Isn't that the best?
No, I don't know. Maybe their projects were better. It seemed like we had 2 or 3 pitch meetings. Second pitch meeting, they're like, we like it, make a few changes, come back. I did a few theme songs for it. We did this whole thing. My brother acted out the storyboards. We're like, we're going to do it. It's going to happen for us. And then they're like, we'll pass. So
just takes one word.
Yeah, and there's, then there was a producer in LA who said she guaranteed us $5 million for a feature, and then that didn't happen. We're like, whatever. That could just be who knows? There's so many factors or elements of why that could have not worked out. And then more lately, my brother is on the cusp of being a huge artist. He had a video piece that I did sound design for in the Whitney Museum, and then we were like, okay, we're in the big museums. It's going to happen for us. He's due for something major, and not saying that won't happen, but that was a few years ago. So I feel like we're always back at square one. And is it that the work's not strong enough? Is it that we're not in the right circle of gatekeepers? I don't know. It feels bad to complain too much, because there's a lot of us that are doing hopefully good work and just have to wait it out.
Do you wonder about trying to find other avenues besides waiting to be picked?
I mean, in a way, the platform of the internet has equalized things. More people in the game, but opportunities to reach core audiences and to parlay that into a career. It's an interesting question. I guess my brother and I still think it's so sacred, what we're doing that I can't imagine not having control over it. Maybe it's a control issue. Also, creative projects are sort of like a romance for me. Like I have to fall in love with it. Like my opera that I'm still trying to pitch. When a few major opportunities fell through last year, I haven't done any music since then because I feel cold. I feel hurt. I can't even play. I can't even do it. Now I know like the romance will come back, whether this project or something else, and I'll forget about everything. I'll be like in amnesia. I'll just, like when I finished my symphony and nothing seemed to happen, even though I had radio play, I got it in print, interviews, like Gramophone magazine. I got a couple major things. It was cool. Not that it was a huge hit, but I was out there. I just waited and nothing happened. So similar thing happened where I was like, okay, it's just not going to work out for me. Let a year go by, and then fell in love with the opera, like researching and writing it and getting some small grants that supported me in my research, and then the ball's moving and you're just so into it. Now, what's changed now is I would be thinking a little further ahead in terms of the successful outcome of my project. I can't keep being totally like lost in the fairy lands. I can, but I also need to think about where I'm going to end up.
How are you going to figure this out? Distribution?
Yeah,
where's it going to go? Who do I want to see it?
Yeah. I'm a very spontaneous person. Like
that's how I think artistic people conceive of the world. It's just one thing connects to another, and then you're off. And it's the best feeling in the world. When you're off, when you're just in a tunnel vision mode, and
the connections, your imagination and your logic, and when everything's firing on all cylinders.
And the opposite is desolation itself.
Yeah, which is where I've been like the last several months. I'm kind of at a low moment, and not to like be like pity, like honestly, I'm in a low moment, and I accept that, and I like work through that solitary feeling, that sort of going back to, it's not that I need the success and fame to validate what I'm doing, and it's not even really that those things will bring me lasting joy or happiness. An artist though wants to share what they're doing and wants to feel that they're communicating something, that what they're communicating is understood. I'm not trying to remain an enigma or someone you dig up 100 years later and like, oh, there's some interesting work here. Like I would love to, like people who have a community around what they're doing and support them, that's wonderful. That's enough to ask for, I think. And I think it's playing the long game. I mean, people who are doing good work for long enough are usually, I think you had this in some sort of email or description you sent me, like the work will be outed eventually. And I that kind of resonates with me.
Well, but did it shake your faith in that concept? The talent outs itself over time. The time plus talent equals whatever definition of success you have.
Yeah.
You described a scenario where you had something, you put a project you believed in, you got the recognition you felt you deserved, and then I think you ended that with quote unquote nothing happened. So do you feel that that's true? And second, I mean, I just like to unpack nothing happened because but answer the first part. I mean, do you still have faith that like it's just talent? There's a finite number of actually talented people, and if they work hard, they make it.
No, several people won't. They'll remain.
So there's Hemingways out there and whatever, Jerry Seinfelds, and they're just not going to pop.
Not as many, but yes.
And the reason is because of arbitrary chance, not because they didn't put in the work.
I think there is an element to that, yeah. I almost don't want to admit it. Like the romantic part of me feels that you'll be dug up and you will be celebrated if you're doing work that is honest and true and has something fresh.
Everybody says that.
I know.
And it's like Norm Macdonald has a hilarious thing. He's like, I heard Jim Carrey giving a speech. He's like, well, if you work hard, you'll make it. It's like easy for you to say. You fucking made it.
Exactly. No, I mean hindsight. I think several people they just won't be remembered. I mean, that's not my end. That's not the end game of my life. Is to be celebrated. It's to produce work that really.
Well, you said if you had a community around you, what else could you ask for?
I know,
and I think that's how I feel. I want to be able to do whatever it is X thing that
Yeah.
you want to do.
Yeah.
That's how I think a lot of people feel, is they want to wake up and not worry about how they're going to do it, or not worry about whether they can do it.
Yeah.
They
The
just
thing that
focus
kind
on
of
the
kills
work.
the thing that kills me is that there are so many people out there who would really love like my symphony, like the girl I know who got her through her finals, or like things like that, or those little stories. I would love for those people to be able to get through their finals with my work. It doesn't have to be that it changes someone's life. Yeah. Like the thing that lifts someone's spirit when they're down. Like I am sort of an encouraging type. Like I'm an encourager in my whatever personality profile. And I have a very encouraging wife. That helps a lot, because I go in a lot darker places where, like, if she wasn't there, I'd be like, I don't know. I just, you go into dark places, and to have that person right there who's just like there, as a bedrock of emotion. That's huge.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and a brother who is encouraging. I don't know where I'd be like without my brother, just because he was already interested in art before I even knew that I had any talent.
Yeah.
And just believed in me, and knew that saw that there was something of worth in what I was trying to create and express, and encouraged that formation. And I probably relied on him a lot for him getting famous first, and that's not his fault. He's had actually a lot more success than me, but relying on him being at a level where I could just write off his successes. And so the symphony was the first time I really did something on my own as a solo composer, in a way.
I think everybody does that,
Yeah.
because they're afraid. I mean, this is a striking congruity among creative types in all industries, which is they're very afraid of the moment when they release their work, and that it's not going to lead to an opportunity to do more work.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, well, we have a deal. I have a deal with this person, whoever makes it first. And it's like a lot. I hear that all the time. It's so weird. I just wonder about the end of that syllogism that you had, which was nothing happened. Mm-hmm. And I just wonder, like, well, why isn't the thing that, well, okay, we laid another brick, we did another thing,
yeah.
And you've won awards as a filmmaker, and you've done these massive things that so the questioning of self-worth seems to be a result. And I don't know you as well, so I'm not gonna say about you, but for myself, I know, and for a lot of other people, I know that it comes from inaction. Inaction is like cancer. It's like you do nothing, and the pain just floods in, and you start doing stuff, and it's an incredible tonic.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. So,
I agree.
Just for the absurdity of being alive, it's like a tonic for all that. So it's like for me, at this point now, most of what I do isn't directly furthering my goal of writing prose every day. It's so, but it does keep me from the dark pits that you talked about. Yeah. And I've been in those. Yeah. I've been deep in those. Yeah. And they were always because you wake up and you face another a day of a job you hate, or a blank page, or whatever the hell it is. But it's that's the agony, and the action takes you out of it. So I just wonder if there's more sort of not waiting for stuff to happen, but just saying, okay, we did this great creative thing. We're going to push it as far as we possibly can, and work on getting stronger so we can push it further, not so someone can pick us.
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely not remaining stagnant. Which is I agree, is death. I mean, it's like a shark that stops moving. So I think human beings were made to work, but without the toil of the conditions we work in this world. And also we were made to play. I mean, and I think a lot has been written on this, but like play is something as adults that we need. I mean, it's not a want, it's something that, especially as artists, that we must engage in. Because when we play, we are, in a sense, outside of ourselves, but also in touch with who we really are. And the way that plays out with music, and also writing, because I've done screenwriting and I wrote the libretti for my opera, is becoming, it's funny, it's like you're becoming more self-aware, but also at the same time you're more empathetic toward others, because you're directing all your energy toward the project. And as difficult as it is to separate yourself from your art, and that's why artists are sensitive, especially when it comes to how it's received. It's so vital and important to not remain stagnant, to not remain inactive, to I mean, this is like a pep talk, keep going when you fall, but I think it's more to do with like remaining curious and finding joy in what you do, regardless of the outcome. Now, I would be very happy if I had a financial outcome that was positive net gain through purely my own art. But until that happens, not waiting, definitely being proactive. So, I mean, those are just the essentials of what it means.
Sanity, keeping sane.
Yeah.
Trying to do this stuff. Mm-hmm. Do you think that it's interesting what you just said when you said that's pep talk? People have this too, and I don't know. I'm just noticing stuff among everybody I talk to. Like in these things that there seems to be like a parallel narrative at all times in your brain that is ready to mock what you're saying.
Yeah. Sure.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
What is that? We all have it. I have it. I can't even get through a full thought without stopping and qualifying that it's a stupid thing to say.
I feel like everything sounds like a soundbite once I say it, unless because my inaudible musings seem so much more profound than.
When you're in the shower, you're like, I nailed it. And now you got a fucking camera on you, and you're like, I don't know.
Also, I'm a composer, so I'm supposed to speak through notes, I'm first a composer and second a writer. So, so writing's interesting because it's something that I've gotten better at, but I don't purport to be anything great. Whereas music, not that I would toot my own horn, but it's something I feel is more. There's been a gift, there's been a talent that has always existed and has hopefully been refined over time, but didn't need to mature in the way that, because words are so much more difficult in a language that's so there's only like notation is limited, but the infinite possibilities in how intangible and how it's open to interpretation. I mean, words are so final. There's you read a sentence, I don't like that. Whereas music could take on a different form or shape.
So Augustine said, "He who sings prays twice."
Oh, interesting. I agree.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm ready to retire, even though I'm 34, because I've said almost everything I want to say. Not that I don't have new things that will lead me in the future, but from 15 to 34, I've created hundreds of compositions and so many projects that I've put everything into, myself and my soul, that I'm a little more guarded now. Yeah, that's why I'm wondering, I don't want to be the guy who stops creating, not that I would ever fully stop, but I almost feel like compromising in a way, and that's the difficult moment I find myself in. I'm expecting my first kid, so I'm like, you know what, I'll just be a good father. That, you know what, I've done so many creative things. Maybe it's just my lot in life to just be a good husband and father, and which is obviously very important. But creative stuff, I feel like I've just done it. I mean, if it doesn't happen for me, maybe I should just, I don't know. I'm feeling very despondent.
A friend of mine got a nameless friend got out of rehab and is now working through AA. And he says that in AA they call it the rooms. You're in AA in the rooms. And he says that you've got to be careful to continue to go even when you don't need it. Otherwise, you become a dry drunk. You become a sober person who is embittered, discontent, miserable.
You're right.
Is there a lurking piano in any of this of the sort of I don't know, aborted creative within that? 10, 15 years later, it's I'm recovering creative and whatever. Yeah, but no. You're not practicing, and whatever you talked about, that decaying thing or that bitterness. Up. Is there any danger of that?
Absolutely. If I'm not, because I haven't been creating the last several months in a way that is my main outlet of creativity, I have to, and thankfully I've been able to keep it away most of the time. I used to get jealous of people, the envy thing. I don't really get that anymore, thankfully. That's its own disease. It's more of just that, like what you said, that bitterness of, and why don't I find the driver, the resolve, or the energy to even create again? That scares me a little bit, because I've never actually been in a place. I remember a few times in my life where I took a little break. This is the first time in my life where I'm scared that I won't even do anything for a long time. And although editing and things like that are a form of creativity, it doesn't feed the soul at all, like in terms of that inaction, the dry drunk. So I'm sort of there right now, but which is good in a way. I'm processing it. I'm going through it. I think it's important for me to like see this side and go through the season, and it'll be enrapturing when the creativity returns, because I know it will. Like I'll fall in love again. With the project, and everything will be okay.
There'll be another spring.
I'm a very I'm optimistic. Shades of pessimism always there, but I'm also just married to someone who's very optimistic and cannot fail in terms of life itself, like her joy and beauty of life, like that stability, really helps.
It's infectious.
Yeah. So I press on, I keep going, and all is well, because I don't base my self-worth at the deepest level core of who I am on what I do. And that is the most free thing, because that's probably the number one thing that people fall into. When it becomes their idol, they'll fall hard, even if they have success, because then they'll have to maintain it. So for me, it's yes, I'd love to have a successful career as a composer, but deeper than all those things is obviously my relationship to God and my spirituality. That's more important than these things in the end. In a sense, I'm already free. Now I'd love to use that freedom to develop my artistic voice.
When you finished those things, did you feel then that was the best you could do while you were doing them?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you almost can't trade anything for that.
There's not a shade of regret.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It was the best I could possibly push toward and achieve and realize that I could imagine that my imagination and my creative energy could take me to. And so in that sense, it was the most, when I did my opera, I was working on it full time for another about 8 or 9 months. And I never found myself more productive or more creative in my entire life. I had 9 months of heaven, and then...
And don't you think it's going to last forever?
A year of hell.
Don't you think
I did.
Right. I was like, I got it. I figured it out. I'm good.
I finished it on my 33rd birthday. The day I finished it, I got my 33rd birthday, and then a whole different story. Everything went to hell. I had like a nervous breakdown. I moved away, came back. All these things happened after, but I was I was in heaven, basically.
There's no way to know that where you're at is not where you're always going to be.
That's true. And I have to say, and I don't mean to sound wise beyond my experience, because I still do give into a lot of that sort of self-pity. But being broken can be a beautiful thing, and it can result in maturity, and it can result in art that speaks from a different vantage point. But I want one project that's like really big, that so I can not only work at the highest artistic level, but have it in the culture. I don't know why. I think it's just that maybe it's a mixture of that like rugged individualist thing I grew up with, and that like American ingenuity of like, are you gonna make it to the top? Like, why should I care? I don't know. I guess I care too much about that.
I hope you don't think I'm saying that.
No, you're not. No,
I think that's a good. I don't think there's anything wrong with. I think the ambition can be equal to the size of the thing you hope to undertake, right? I mean, I don't think there's anything.
So I'll say the masterpiece. That probably makes more sense. Like Wagner had his Ring Cycle, which I'm not going to do a 14-hour opera, but he had that. Your magnum opus. Even when I finished a few larger projects, they seem like preludes or overtures to something much larger. That eventually there'd be a project that encompassed everything. And whether I'm 40, 50, or 60, hopefully not more than that.
It needs to come out.
It needs to come out, yeah. And so, in a sense, the fact that I haven't achieved this type of success that I originally intended, I've always kept it a little bit ahead of me. I've always said, you know what, let's wait till I'm like 40 or 50. Like maybe I'll finally be ready to tell, like the better you get at something, the less words or the less notes or the less it takes to convey it. Like a master at what they do says things or does things very quickly.
There's a zen simplicity.
A zen brushstroke.
Yeah. Like David Miller doesn't even think about his writing when he's not writing.
Mm-hmm.
He will only think about it when he gets there.
Yeah.
Sit in front of the computer, because otherwise he feels his ego will come down and grab the character
Hmm.
and pull the character down to become just a mouthpiece for him. You know, so he just can show up and just be embody
I like
the
that.
character. Ultimatum. Okay?
Okay.
You get everything that you've done discovered. Okay, at the highest levels of discoverability in your, we'll say, creative vertical. Okay, or you get to achieve the same feeling that you had in all these, which is you did your best work during the time you were capable of doing it, with this elusive masterpiece. You get that, but you never get to beyond the recognition that you currently have. You take the masterpiece and the feeling of Zen completion, or do you take what you've already done, you know, pile on a couple more projects, and instant discoverability?
Yeah. Something about the masterpiece just kills me.